Hey Marie, thank you so much for being here with me today. I have heard a lot about your journey, so I just want to dig into your stories. But first, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your podcast. And yeah, I'm Marie. I'm based in Ghent, Belgium. I'm 33. Yeah, I'm getting old, 33 years old. And I live here together with my partner and co-founder of Tally, Philip, and my daughter Lucy.
Awesome. I like to start with not talking about business. So, like
Okay.
Marie, if I ask your best friend to describe you, what would he or she say?
Yeah, that's a difficult one actually. I would say curious and open-minded. Like I'm quite interested in a lot of things.
Hmm.
And I also don't like to talk about myself too much. So that's actually a very bad quality, I guess, for a founder. But yeah, I guess next to those things, I'm quite dedicated. Like I like to get the job done. I think those are the most important things that would come to mind.
I think from reading your blog posts, I can definitely see those values in your writing.
Really? Oh, that's interesting to hear.
Yeah. So what do you care or value most in life other than that? Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we briefly talked about it before, but I became a mother last year, which was quite of a life-changing experience, I would say. Of course, I love my friends and family and partner, but I guess the relationship with the kid is, well, for me anyway, it's something on a different level of love that I didn't know before. So I would say that's quite a big part of yeah of my life right now. And besides that, I love the freedom to be able to do what I want whenever I want to do it. And Tally is playing a very big part in that. Kind of allows us to, create our own lifestyle business and while doing something we love, building a product. So yeah, I guess that freedom is something that is very important to me as well.
I have to say I agree with you 100% because our babies are 10 days apart, and
Yeah.
when you plan to have a baby, you kind of redesign your life around it, right? That's exactly what we did.
Definitely, yeah. And I just cannot imagine how people with like, I'm not gonna say normal jobs, but like an office job manage it. Like I feel like we need to be so flexible and being our own boss kind of allows us to do that. So yeah, respect for a lot of the parents out there.
Same here, same here. What about before Tally? What were you doing before then? I want to dig into your experience so that we know, oh, okay, now you're doing this startup.
So I had around 10 years of experience in mainly B2B marketing. I worked in several companies in Belgium. The last one was as a marketing manager at a digital product studio. So it's an agency that um, basically builds applications or websites for other clients. So I was mainly in charge of like marketing and communication with the clients there, but in a tech environment, I would say. And then I actually quit my job to start our first startup, which wasn't Valley, but which was Hotspot, something completely different. It's actually, yeah, it was a platform that connects hotels and travel influencers. But unfortunately, we started it when COVID hit, which was around the worst timing ever to have a startup in travel. And after a couple of months, we just had to stop because we lost all our clients and we didn't really see any good developments there. No ways to reach clients. The hotels were our clients, and everyone was just shutting down. So that was our first experience of working together and having a startup. And yeah, we decided to pivot, and then that led to Tally. Yeah.
Oh, so you actually work with your husband for that idea, and then now it's a second idea
Yeah.
together. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah. Right.
understand the strength and weaknesses of each other so you can like
Well,
figure the
a bit.
best.
It wasn't super long, it was
Okay.
only a couple of months.
Okay.
And we also wanted to travel, so we actually wanted to do the whole digital nomad thing. We didn't have a baby yet at the time. And yeah, all of that kind of yeah, got canceled because of the pandemic. But yeah, that was our first yeah, our first project together, I would say.
I love the story before Tally because a lot of people might think, oh, wow, Tally is growing so fast. But then there's a lot of behind the scene that people don't see, which is
Yeah,
the failure, the struggles before that. Yeah, thanks for
yeah,
telling us
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I think it's important as well because a lot of people indeed only see the good parts, and like the growing MRR and all the successes. But yeah, I think we had around 2 years of, not having a salary, trying to figure out things, trying out our first startup, then being disappointed as well, and deciding to pivot, which was also kind of scary because, yeah, I had quit my job for this, and you kind of want things to work, but I guess the first idea mostly doesn't work. So yeah, we there's definitely a lot of failure that has happened
Mm.
in our startup journey. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, where the idea came from because, I have been running startup for a long time, and my biggest learning is that don't serve different kind of people shifting around all the time because you have to relearn everything. So are you
Yeah.
serving the same kind of audience before and after? How did that idea come from?
Do you mean the same audience like our first startup or?
Yeah, so you kind of
Yeah.
understand them better.
Yeah, well, not at all. I think we had a completely opposite audience. Like our first one was hotels and travel influencers, and actually, we didn't really know a lot about the space. We were interested in traveling and in like maybe solving this problem, but if you look at it now, I think we're a lot more comfortable in like the no-code space and the product space where we are at now. It's something that is more close to, what we love, and to our previous jobs as well. So we had zero network when we started Tally, which some people might call it stupid, but it was mainly, there's so many form builders out there. So there's a lot of demand. Like everybody needs a form at one point of their private or professional life. So we weren't really worried about like the demand or validating the ID. We just wanted to create a different form building experience, and that's something that we hadn't really found ourselves. We had used a lot of form builders, but being a startup, young startup ourselves, we didn't have big budgets. So there's the more expensive ones out there, and then there's like Google Forms, which is the free option, but for us it just didn't look good. It's also not fun to use, and at the same time we're, yeah, big fans of Notion and their user experience. So we thought, what if we can just create like a form builder that is fun to use? You can just start typing, and you can build any type of form in seconds and do it really quickly. Maybe we can, claim a small part of that huge market that is out there. And that's kind of how we started building our MVP, and how we started, yeah, growing from there. So it was mainly, I think, a personal need that we experienced, and then, some, of course, the no-code space is growing a lot as well. So we thought there might be something there.
Love it. So it's half like understanding yourself, what you like, and half observing the market. I have to
Yeah,
say, I'm still a free user of Tally, but once I start
like a
using
lot of
it,
people.
yeah, once I start using it, I don't want to use other forms because it's very minimalistic, which is the style that I like. And I mean, you guys are giving away a lot in the free tier. So far, I don't have a need to upgrade yet. But I mean, if that point hits, I will not be hesitating. I would just do it. So I'm very
What,
honest here. I'm a
yeah,
free user.
thank you. Thank you. But that's great to hear because actually what you describe now is how our growth model works. We decided to make it free because we're so small, so we don't have the big marketing budgets like the other players have. And so we needed another USP. So besides like the form building experience, yeah, Tally being free lowers the barrier to try it out, to tell your friends and your colleagues. And all our free users also have a powered by badge, powered by Tally badge on the forms, which like gives us more visibility and then turns into new users again. And yeah, that helps us a lot to grow with very small budgets, basically. And then we have around, like, I would say 3% that converts into paying users. But the free users are just our biggest marketing channel, I would say. And a lot of people really value, like, yeah, the value that we give for free. So sometimes upgrading becomes like a no-brainer after a while. And yeah, we think that's a really nice way to shape our business model.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of freemium because they are afraid of all the
Yeah.
customer support they have to do. But I mean, I don't have any questions for you guys since the day I started using Tally. So like the experience is like pretty good. So I guess that
Oh,
lower
that's
your
great to
workload.
hear. It's something we're working on. We spend a lot of time on customer support. I would say 50% of our time, which is a lot. Of course, we learn a lot by just answering questions and helping people out. And we're trying to like improve our help center and just make sure that all the information is out there. But I think we still have a long way to go, and especially if we're just a team of two, right? So if we want to stay with a small team, we'll have to optimize that and make sure that yeah we can focus on growing the product and not just yeah customer support basically.
So I want to ask one more question before we jump into the main topic today, which is building in
Yeah.
public. So first year of Tally, 16,000 users and 8.5k MRR. And well, you talked about the freemium being the growth factor. Is there anything else that drive the growth? Because we have a lot of SaaS founder as in an audience, so I'm sure they would like to learn a bit.
Yeah, yeah, like the freemium is a big one. But when we started, I would say, so we started with cold outreach actually, just by sending DMs to people on Twitter. We would go to Product Hunt and we would see who would upvote like similar products, and then we would look them up on Twitter, like a very manual, not scalable process, and basically ask like, hey, could you try out our product and give us some feedback? So we did that for like thousands of people just to get that initial like traction and feedback, and that helped us, I think, a lot in like gaining our first users. Of course, we also focused on people with like a large following or known people in the space. So if they would share it, then we would get new followers. And it's that combined with launching on Product Hunt, which was our first like big boost in growth, I would say. And then, yeah, also building in public, which, we haven't, I would say, fully mastered that, but we have been sharing our journey from the start and try to also share, like the lessons learned and some of the behind the scenes stuff. And I think that gave us like some content mainly to share on Twitter and Reddit. Indie Hackers was a big platform for us. So I would say it was a combination of all those things.
Thank you, Marie, for the really smooth transition into our topic today. So, okay, so I was like reading a lot of posts on your blog, and I saw that in the early days of Tele, actually your blog was a lot of like business know-how. And
Yeah.
then actually like when you tap into that 1 year milestone, the blog post content changed a little bit to like sharing revenue, graphs, lesson learned. So I actually want to hear your like mental journey, like when to start, what were you thinking, and then 1 year mark, what were you thinking?
Yeah. So it's not really a strategy. It's more like some mistakes that we made, I think. So when we started, we didn't even have a blog. We had like a help center with some other content on it, but it was structured as a help center, so it wouldn't really read well as a blog. So that was already a first problem. And I was mainly sharing our updates like in Twitter threads or on indie hackers, so not on our own blog. After a while, of course, realizing that, that was maybe not the way to go, and I wanted to bundle our content on our blog. And then we actually redesigned the whole thing and split up the help center and created a blog. So that's one of the reasons why you would see different content out there. And then yeah, I think it's for us it was kind of a process that we had to grow in as well. We were quite strict on ourselves, like what do we share and what not. Not because we don't want to be open or transparent, because it just I always want to share something that is valuable. And I think with building in public, there's this very thin line between building in public and bragging. And when you're small, yeah, of course you cannot brag and we're still very, very small in revenue compared to other players. But I feel like when you share your revenue all the time, which is probably what most people are very interested in, it's not always that valuable without like the lessons learned behind it. So we kind of chose to only share big milestones for us, and then really try to write more lengthy blog posts with everything that helped us get to that point. And that it takes quite some time to like get it right and yeah, share qualitative content, I would say. So that was kind of our strategy behind this. I guess that's also why we share a bit less, and more focus on those bigger moments, and then try to attach like some lessons learned or some tips, or guides or whatever that might, may help other people that are in the same situation like us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I was gonna ask you like, because in my mind or the way I share with people, there are two types of public builders. One is the
Yeah,
daily public builder. They share
yeah,
what they're doing every day, but they're getting a lot of feedback back. And there's the
yeah,
retrospective type of recap public builder, which is like you.
yeah,
You don't
yeah.
share every day. You're not on Twitter all the time, but you really just summarize the big piece of information and put it online for other people to learn from. So I was going to
Yeah.
ask you why you made that choice, but you already told us. So
Yeah,
that was
I
great.
think it's a combination. I mean, I think I would like to share more as well, but sometimes it just doesn't happen because of like planning or not really having a good strategy behind it. So we would like to do it more often, but then again, I also want it to be valuable. So it's always like that balance that I'm trying to find. But yeah, it's definitely something that I'm thinking about, and want to improve in. Yeah.
I think this is a really good point because when we talk about building public, I think most people think you have to share a lot, like every day,
Yeah.
and you have to share everything, like just
Yeah.
everything. But this is not, from you, we can know that this is not true. Like, it's better to find the format that works well for you.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you're not the type of person that tweet all the time on Twitter, then don't force
Indeed.
it.
Yeah. Sometimes it's forced, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with tweeting every day. Of course, it's
Right.
definitely a good strategy. But I feel like if we would do it, it would be, it would not be. It might seem forced indeed, or it might seem a bit too planned, and yeah, I guess that's just not how we are.
Yeah. So one of the favorite thing about building in public, especially for me myself, like I'm a info product creator, so I build courses, write
Yeah.
books, and I get a ton of feedback. So for you, SaaS founder, and then through your open blog post, do you get a ton of feedback as well, or do you get feedback somewhere else?
Yeah, um, we get tons of feedback, that's for sure. I wouldn't say that the main feedback would come through our building in public content. We have a Slack channel that is now has like like would say 900 members and is growing quite steadily. And that's where most of our feedback and questions come in. So we're definitely learning a lot there. And then, yeah, then there's Twitter and emails and Sally forums that we use to gather feedback. So I think those would be our biggest sources, just to get product feedback. And then if we share more, content about how do we grow or our bigger milestones, then I think we would get more feedback on those things, like more on how do you build a startup, not necessarily on Tally or the product. I think that would be mainly be on Reddit, because people somehow are more vocal on there, Reddit and indie hackers, because there's a lot of bootstrappers in there. So I would not say that we get most of our feedback from Twitter, but it's definitely an important channel for us to grow because the product is being shared a lot in there.
Yeah. What about like branding and trust? Because I think just yesterday I saw a tweet about, hey, if a founder is not someone you like, would you still use their product? And people are saying, well, if it's an indie product, like a small startup, then maybe no, because the founder is very important. But for a big company, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't care who runs the company. So do
yeah.
you see that the building public posts help you build trust and brand for Tally and actually the founders?
I think I think the founder story for us is quite important. But then I think there's two types of audiences that we might have. There's like the makers, indie hackers, and then maybe startups or a bit bigger companies. And I would say the bigger companies, they don't really care or don't always care who's behind the product. They just want a good functioning product. But the other part would definitely like cheer for us and support us because we are kind of the underdog, and the small team, and we're bootstrapped. We don't have any external investment, and that's definitely something that resonates, and that I would say, yeah, gives us more support from that group of people. So it's also something that we focus on. Like we just made a new about us page, and that tells a bit more about who are we, and who is Marie and Philip, the two faces behind the product. So I definitely think for us that's a big USP because that's our story. That's kind of our marketing or our brand, right? That we are, small, and that we are talking to our users and responsive, and trying to move fast. A lot of things that like the bigger companies cannot do. So it's I would definitely say for us that it's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds to me that when you're early indie and if you're targeting individuals as a customer, then building
Yeah.
public is the best fit.
Yeah. Yeah,
As
for
long as
sure.
business come into perspective, people are just working in that company, then building public has a bit less impact on them. That makes sense.
Right, yeah, and but of course you need to start somewhere, and I guess then building in public is a really good way to do that because it's just a way of content marketing, right? It's just sharing whatever content that might also be interesting for other startups going through the same journey, and yeah, it's definitely helping us a lot to grow. And to also to learn, because we learn a lot from other companies that are building in public. And that's why we also try to, give back and share what we've learned as well.
Is there any interesting story you can share around like trust where maybe someone they're like, "Oh, I signed up to use you because of your public story," something like that?
Yeah, it definitely happens a lot. Like that people would say, "Oh, I just love your story and you've been so helpful and I really want to use Tally and I will, sign up or I will ask my boss and I really think we should switch because you're doing so good." And like we would definitely get that feedback. But on the other hand, we might also get feedback like, "Oh, are you big enough? Will you still be there next year? If we move all our forms to Tally, is it a safe choice?" So that might be the downside of the whole, sharing sharing everything about our company, because of course we're still, in the bigger scheme of things, we're still quite small. So it has two sides, but I think for us, it's definitely been working out well.
Has building in public like help you attract some potential investor? I don't know if you're fundraising, but do people reach out to you to ask?
Yeah, well, so we're not fundraising, and we don't plan to. So we're trying to just stay bootstrapped. But we definitely had a lot of interest and outreach from investors. I would say the biggest spike of interest was after our product hunt launch, because then, yeah, we had a lot of more traffic and visibility. But since then, yeah, we do get quite some reaction on posts that we share, and we get contacted quite often by investors. So I would say it definitely helps if you're trying to raise money.
Wow, that's good to hear. And I'm glad you're bootstrapping because I came from a funded background and then now I'm bootstrapping. I feel so much
Okay.
better. Like I can be myself all the time.
Yeah, I think it depends on the product, right? Like we're
True.
able to do it right now, but for some people it might definitely be necessary or better to raise money. But for us, if we
Totally.
can do it and grow at our own pace, then yeah, we'll be really happy if that works out.
Yeah. So a lot of people have this question in mind, like, when should I start sharing more? Because on day one, when your MRR is like zero, I actually didn't share. And then when I start making a few hundred, maybe 1,000, then I was like, well, maybe it's time to share. So do you have any
Yeah,
points of views around this?
I think for me, like personally, it's a bit of the opposite. Like when we made like a couple of $100, I thought it's fine to share because you're so small and everyone is like supporting you and they're like, ooh, they only make, this much money. So people are like very supportive. And I feel like the more money you make, the more envious people can also become. So it's
Right.
mostly like about the tone of voice, I guess, and how you share things. And yeah, it kind of comes back to what I said before. Like if we do that, then we also try to share some insights or some valuable things next to that. Um, but I kind of forgot your question because I'm talking about. Sorry, what was your question again?
So a lot of people they don't know whether they should share
When to
from day
start?
one or when they start
Yeah,
making money, then they start sharing to kind of
yeah,
reduce that fear.
yeah. I feel like if you have something valuable to share, I would definitely do it from the start. And the bar doesn't need to be so high. You can just share what you did that day and what went wrong and what went well. For us, in the beginning, we didn't really share a lot. We were mostly focused on like cold outreach to get that first set of users. And then we started sharing more afterwards, just because we also felt like we didn't always have interesting things to share. Like we were just sending DMs all day, right? So there was not that much to share. But if you can and you feel like you have something to say, then I would definitely share, start sharing from the start, and it can help you get new users as well.
I like it. I like how you don't put the emphasis on the revenue. Actually, there are a lot of lessons everywhere other than the numbers. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And as well for us, like making the product free as well, there was less of a focus on revenue, but just getting more users. Yeah, which has also helped us, I think, make like the right product decisions in the end.
So if someone wants to start building in public, being open, uh, what's your advice to them to kind of get over that fear and vulnerability to be transparent?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, we're quite honest by nature, and humble as well. So I feel like if you share from the start and people follow you from the start, then they will just, love your journey, and they will also cheer for you when you grow. Which I think is really important, not just to share like the highs but also the lows, right? And I think for us, it just helps that we we talk about ourselves, the fact that we are, a couple and co-founders, that we're only a team of two, that we have, limited time, and that we also have limited capacity, and we're always talking to users. We're getting a lot of feedback, but we're very open about the fact that we won't always be able to act upon it immediately. And just by sharing that, you kind of get, respect, from your users as well, and I guess a bit more patience. So yeah, I guess just be yourself and try not to brag too much, I would say, and then everything turns out fine.
Yeah, and from the sound of it, sometimes it's not about the business struggle. Sometimes you can talk about your personal life, right? You have a young baby, so like we
Yeah.
cannot work today, and people would see that as some like a anecdote, like a story. But then it's being transparent about my struggle in life. That helps too.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember like my first podcast interviews, the most reactions I would get was like, "Oh, you have a baby." It was not at all about the product or about our growth, but more like, "Oh, and you work with your partner, and how is that?" And yeah, I guess that's just also part of the story that is interesting, and you like to learn more about like the faces behind the screens and the product, I guess.
Yeah, I'm the person who likes to put my daughter on Twitter all the time. So I'm
Yeah.
writing a book, and then I ask my daughter to pick my beta readers for me. So she's like
Oh
involved
my
in the
God.
process.
Nice, nice. Is she also fascinated by like your computer and wanting to hit the keyboard all the time? Yeah.
Well, when she walked by with the room, she'll see the screensaver, and she's like, "Whoa, what is this moving thing?" And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
she
yeah.
would come over and be like, "Oh, this is amazing." But I don't let her touch it, so I would be like, "Let's go out, let's go out."
Yeah. Yeah, we made the mistake to let her, and now that's the only thing she wants to do.
Especially with the mobile phone too, right? That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
addicting.
Swiping. Yeah.
Yeah,
Too much screen time.
yeah. I'm always
Need
like,
to
take it,
change
take it
that.
away, take it away.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. But then she sees us on it, and then yeah, bad examples, I guess.
Yeah. So Marie, I have just one last question since we're talking about babies. So like, how do you how do you manage all this and have a young baby at home? What's something that you do to like work it out?
Um, I guess we had to learn. Like in the beginning, it was really difficult. So our baby goes to daycare, so she's not here between, I would say, 9 and 5, which helps, and that gives us like a set of our focus hours in which we can work. Um, but we were really struggling with it because we were used to doing, working a lot more hours, having more energy. So we kind of had to come to terms with the fact that our lives have changed and we just have less energy sometimes because, you cannot always sleep well. And we just need to focus on, the tasks that need to be done. And we had to learn to say no a lot. So if people want to like hop on a call, if it's not like for podcast like this, or we usually say no,
Mm.
because it just usually a waste of time. So we have to be really strict with that. We try to handle everything in the most efficient way. So just we can get the most out of the hours that we can work. Um, and besides that, yeah, we're also partners in life, and co-founders as well. So I guess the good thing is that we're quite compatible. So Philip, my partner, he's the technical co-founder, and so he builds and designs the product. And I don't really know a lot about that. And I have like the background in marketing, and I do all the other stuff that comes with running a startup. So we each have our own responsibilities. So that definitely helps to not like be to like have a lot of discussions, and then yeah, we try to have some hobbies and go out and see our friends and have some alone time in the evenings, and it's working out for now. So yeah, I'm not sure what I will say next year, but I think it's working for now, and yeah, we try to give each other enough space and have separate responsibilities, and that's working.
Well, first of all, Marie, I just want to say a big thank you for coming onto this show or talk because I know you're very busy. And the second
Well,
thing is, okay, I forgot what I want to say. I was gonna say, okay, I forgot what I want to say.
no worries. But thanks a lot. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot for inviting me. It's really cool to get to know you. I've been following
yeah,
you on Twitter, so it's nice to get to know the person
yeah,
behind
definitely.
the profile.
Oh, I remember what I want to say. So like from this like 30, 35 minutes, when I hear your stories, I can just tell you're a very genuine and open person. And that's the reason why you can be consistently sharing your lessons in your journey. I talk to a lot of people and I see that connection. Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Well,
really
thanks.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
that's really nice to hear. Yeah, I guess that's why we find it really important as well to build in public and to share like the real story, which sometimes makes it a bit more difficult because there's of course also always competitors reading, and you're like thinking, should we share everything? But you know, we just do, and we try to be genuine, and I guess that's what works the best in the end.
Yeah. Going back to our point about the whatever you share, it doesn't have to be revenue, it doesn't have to be certain things. It's as long as you're sharing, that's
Yeah,
okay. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the show. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.